We are only 3 weeks into the NFL season, and many notable players are already on injured reserve. Stars like Eric Berry, Julian Edelman, David Johnson, and Greg Olsen are all out of action for the foreseeable future. A few of these players were injured during the preseason, but that is just one cause. I'm joined by our NFL experts, Gentry and David Flynt, to discuss the injury issue in the NFL. And David, we'll start with you. What do you think the NFL can do to promote player safety?
Continue researching. They've got a great start going with all the concussion research they're doing, getting players to donate their brains after death for CTE research, things like that. Independent neurological consultants, things like that, great. The youth football initiatives that they sponsor, yes, that's not NFL level, but they can certainly use that data and that information to help on their level too, and any level for that matter.
Yeah, and going off the youth football, that's what I said in one of my answers. We need to reteach how to properly tackle. I know that's a key fact in how people are getting concussions. They start to lead with their head, and that causes injury to the player they're tackling themselves and causes significant brain injuries. If you put a helmet-to-helmet contact, the fines should be raised and maybe even suspensions. I know we've started to see the raise in fines and everything, but it's just something that needs to happen in the league.
So in a way, kind of promoting like more consequences for these actions and maybe, as you said, preventing it at an early level. Right. And moving from that to this question, Drew, do you think that the NFL isn't doing enough to prevent its players from getting hurt? What do you think they can improve?
I think they are not doing enough as is. I mean, we do need to continue researching, as David said, but there's so many injuries still occurring. If we reteach how to properly tackle and teach people to not go for the boomstick hits, then I think it will bring football back to what it's supposed to be, which is family kind of fun kind of thing, where you see many families going to games with each other. They don't want to see somebody injured. They don't want to see a star player get hurt. They want to see the game go on.
Right, but how do you keep non-contact injuries from happening and things like that? Like I said, research is a big part of it, but it's football. It's not bowling. It's injuries are going to happen here.
Yeah. Injuries will happen
in the strangest of ways, and there's no possible way to prevent it. Certainly, you want to prevent all that you can, but you can't prevent everything, and football's a risky game. If you're afraid of getting hurt, don't play it.
I took this question, though, as like, what is the NFL doing with the contact injuries? There's a lot of non-contact injuries that are happening in the sport, but that's just from overuse because people have decided they want to play one sport year-round. Year-round sports have been caused to the gain of injuries throughout sports, as you see people that are 12 getting Tommy John in baseball because that's all they have done their whole entire life. It's all about repetitive motion. If you're repetitive, then you're more likely to tear something.
You have a point there, but in football, hitting is part of the game. You take away the hitting and the contact, you don't have a sport left unless you want to put flags on everybody's belts. There's no sport left, and what's the point in that?
I'm not saying taking away the sport. I'm saying take away the boomstick hit. The boomstick is where you don't even try and wrap up. You're just leaning with your shoulder and just hoping to lay the guy completely out. Yes, we had those back in before the boomstick era I kind of took off, which has been more recently. You see people getting laid out. You see defenders just leaning with their shoulders, trying to stop the man like they're running from the side, trying to tackle on the 1 yard line. Like that's not going to do anything. They're still going to score that way. But if you wrap them up, you can pull them back before they stretch across the end zone, and you're avoiding the injury most likely.
You're right. I mean, good tackling will certainly prevent some injuries, and there's no excuse for, frankly, dirty plays like that. But you can't avoid big hits in football, even clean ones. Dick Butkus comes to mind. He hit a guy so hard he later caused him to die, and it was a completely clean hit. How do you prevent that? You don't. It's football. Get over it.
That's also a generational gap there. When did Dick Butkus play? Do you remember?
In the 60s.
Exactly. The 60s and modern technology, completely different for football. The padding in the helmets is getting better and better. With the air-pumped helmets, you're less likely to get a concussion, but there's still concussions happening. Yes, it's going to happen no matter what, but we need to narrow that gap as much as possible.
You're right. We do need to narrow the gap, but again, hitting is part of football. It's been part of football. It's going to stay part of football. injuries are going to happen, and yes, it's unfortunate when they do, and we need to stop them when we can. But you got to hit to succeed in football, and if you don't, you're not going to last long.
Well, we'll definitely see how this unfolds with more research on CTE and other injuries. And that's all from us here at One on One. Make sure to check us out on all of our social media platforms. From all of us at the studio, whose side are you on?